Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Creatively Free. I'm your host, arielgrace, and today I have a dear friend, mentor, and really, I can't say enough amazing things about you. Multi-passionate poet, healer, artist, everything. And I would love if you want to elaborate. I always love to give my guests the opportunity to say something about them. Can I cover it? So welcome, Nadja. And today is I've had kind of spectrum of different guests, and so we're going into a space of multidimensionality, really, with art. And in fact, I'd love to hear your journey about that. And what I've observed with my own art journey is, like when we're younger, it's a certain way, the way our creativity and art wants to show up, and it develops as part of the artist's evolutionary path, really, is to want to experience and express in like layers.
Correct.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about your journey. How has art shown up in your life?
Wonderful. Well, to start with, I was born and raised in Germany, and my first language was German. So I traveled by myself the first time to London when I was 17, and I just fell in love with the city and the language. Just hearing it and just was really like, it moved me. And obviously, coming from a smaller town, being in a big city and so international and so diverse, that I just was like, I've got to live here. So what I did, finishing my school, I just get everything towards, getting back into learning English, because I was like, oh no, I don't need that language, just really wanting to learn the language, and then getting my portfolio ready to presented to an art school in England. And at the time, I had a very nice partner, and we were both wanting to study art. So he and I were just drawing and creating this really nice portfolio for the art schools. And so it was really good to have a team there. And I think that's kind of where came from, this feeling like I prefer to do things with other people. I don't like this kind of lonely artist way of doing things. So obviously studying, you're in the room with lots of people, but not necessarily connecting with them or doing things with each other. So that was just kind of my journey, being in England and quite isolated at first because of the language and lots of other things. But it got me to really get into painting, oil painting. I loved the feeling of the oil and the colors, and I went crazy with the colors and really, really enjoyed myself with canvas and priming everything myself and putting it on the stretcher, etc. So really enjoying this process of creating a piece of work that is just all in your head and then suddenly beautifully big on the wall. It was a sort of a journey of really getting hold of the language. And then once I was able to follow a conversation and kind of be part of it, I felt like the desire to create an image that wasn't moving or doing anything but just being still. So I got into film. This was all still studying. I made Super 8 films and went to Italy with my friends, and I was filming everybody just talking and, in different languages. So I always loved this kind of internationality and the different languages. So, and I really make this connection between the language, as in that being movement, as well as the body. So I'll get to that later. And then 1996, I got very ill. And it just stopped my process of being in this kind of highly intellectual. I was in my master's for fine arts, and so it kind of broke that, because I was like, okay, I need to get back to being physical. So after being ill, I decided to enroll to do a BA in dance. again, it was through a friend who was my dear friend Tostin, who inspired me to go back to dance school because he was doing a year abroad in London from Berlin, dancing. So he was like, dance, Nadja. So I did. But I decided, okay, I'll do a BA. It's like not just like take some classes, took it serious and really enjoyed being physical again. And I just loved to be in the class with lots of people and being physical and feeling everything aesthetic through your own movement and your body. So that's kind of, where I then kind of entered these two spaces. And I had a wonderful tutor, Stuart Brisley, in my master's degree. And he really supported me to find a bridge between the two disciplines, between the performing arts and the visual arts, because he's a performance artist and was really good in helping me to prepare myself for performances and give me some ideas of how that can transition from, one discipline to the other.
Transition and like integrate, it sounds like.
And integrate. Yeah, integration came much later for me. I had to just first sort of, it was just always layering, or first one thing, then the other, had an installation with sound, and then I was dancing in it, just to really say, okay, I'm doing performance art. It's neither dance nor is it visual arts. It's a performance. But then later on, I realized the word performance is so overused. So I had to also reinvent things.
And what other words came forward?
Well, I call it movement often, just movement, or research through the body, or it's just another aspect of expression. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in the bracket of dance, because that's also, a projection. People think, oh, she's a dancer, hence she should be knowing some ballet and some this and some that. And I don't believe in that.
I love that. Yeah, the word performance, obviously, there's just so much in entertainment and media around that word, and
Exactly.
expectations of a history probably of not necessarily authentic expression that is there for entertainment purposes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So the evolution, it sounds like movement and then actual practices that are for you, is that like it feels like a distillation down to essence.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just, I wasn't thinking too much of these things until later. I followed my intuitive desire to express, and it was through writing, through word performance, holding the microphone and speaking. And I also did some Shakespeare Youth Company. I joined them, so doing some physical theatre. I was always exploring what else is there. How can I go further and further into this like aesthetic expression of a human?
And today, when you're doing projects and experiments and amazing things, is there a nuance, a difference? Like, are some of your expressions like more internal first and then come out?
I just placed this tiny little sample here. A friend of mine printed it out for me, like a mathematician, and I said, "What about the fragments smaller than itself? Could you create a pyramid with it?" And goes, "Okay, I'll print it out for you." So he did, and from this little module, I actually did some digital art. Again, with a big group, so it's not me by myself. It's just like I plan the idea and then I get the people together and then we do it together. So I was curious when it was like, okay, digital dance, what's that? So how can you do motion capture and so forth? You get these rubber suits with all the electronics to your body, and then it creates an image on the screen, and then you can dress that image, so it's like a little puppet that moves without facial expression, and you can just dress it with anything. I use the idea of the pyramid being something like an ant hill, and the figures dancing with it are like insects maybe coming out of that anthill, but it's in space, so it could be just another dimension. So I was playing around with different dimensions because obviously the computer offers this kind of other dimension, so why not use it as space?
Yeah, let's talk more on this collaborative art, because I think especially in the culture that I was born in, which is in the US, I think it's been erased actually almost entirely as a concept. But my understanding is that in ancient cultures, that's the only way art was ever really created, is communally.
Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that's just started really early for you. Is it foreign to other people that you bring into your world to do
No,
collaborative?
I think dancers are always happy to dance with other dancers, so that just felt kind of natural, even in Corona, just to team up with another dancer. And that's what I did with Megumi Eda. We just had 1 year of dancing on the bridge that was right in front of my apartment. It was just lovely to have that set once a week. We meet and we perform on the bridge, even if it was -5 degrees Celsius, I should say. We went out in a bikini and a fake fur hat and performed, so snowing or raining or whatever weather it was, we would go outside.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is it's built into particular fields of creative and arts, but your evolutionary journey went from more solitude based to the inherently more collaborative, essentially.
Probably, yes. But even when I was living in San Francisco in California, I would try and put on a show together with some other dancers. I would always invite a visual artist to do something with a stage. I would invite live musicians to participate. My husband at the time was managing the music, and so I kind of always was spoiled with people around me just coming and wanting to join the energy, because it's really, I think, when you propose a project, there is a certain kind of excitement and energy. And so when you say, okay, well, I can think of this and that person and put them together, sit at the table and just discuss the idea, everybody gets a bit excited. And then you ride a whole different energy for a project than doing it all yourself. And you feel like, oh my God, I call this person, do this, blah, blah, blah. And you're all sitting it with yourself. So this way it's shared and it's shared responsibility, and it has more opportunity for growing and looking completely different from what you've initially thought, maybe. So it just it expands.
What was a recent project?
Oh yeah, right now I'm actually working together with a group, and they're called the Dreamscapers, and there are people from different skill sets. We've got artificial intelligence specialist. We have a neurological scientist lady. We have different people, and we come together, and a filmmaker, and 3 dancers, including me. We're just creating this dream project. And basically the dream project was, we already did one version of it, was mixed in with a dinner. So you just imagine you come to a dinner, it's in your dream, and weird things happen. Suddenly, suddenly somebody is walking in dressed as a cowboy or I don't know what, and sitting at the table with you and only eating potatoes because, he doesn't eat anything else. But, you could just imagine anything weird that you would have in your dream. And
Mm.
so we basically created this dinner, and we were part of the dinner and not, and just kind of, went around the audience, and the audience was a participant of the piece, obviously, because they were the players within this dream, the collective dream we were having together. So
Uh,
now,
well,
the next stage is to bring in the artificial intelligence. So if you wrote a piece of paper, you wrote down your dream, we put it into, into the computer and get some images from it. Hopefully, we're hoping for that. That's the next step. And then once people have the dinner, they can see the images of their dream, and we'll see if that has anything to do with that person's dream or not. We'll see.
that's so interesting. Just on so many layers. People have lots of opinions on AI, but it doesn't really matter if you don't like it or not. Here it is. And so I personally do get excited about hearing about positive and creative spaces where people are experimenting and learning and opening up, like dreaming essentially, right? um and then the curiosity that I have is if that opens up the potential for what you created, what you just described, for all of the participants, does that open up something in their psyche when they leave? You're creating these experiential things that are really thin veil kind of worlds that you're immersing people in. And even if they don't study psychology or know about Jung or do arts or any of that,
Exactly.
something's going to shift in their experience.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I have a tech background, as you know. I've been observing, and I have been, I feel like the worlds are merging between big tech and the artistic landscape and entertainment, actually.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
And the funding, therefore, will also, start to kind of have this interesting overlap. So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I want to mention the dance school where I teach. It's Doc 11 and Eden in Berlin. They have been incredibly supportive, for once, for me to be a teacher there, but also to open a spot for me in the digital lab, and just to be able to really do some research. And they had other people on the team who knew everything about the technical aspects. And then I really had that experience, and this was really lovely, that all creative people from all different areas, when they come together, and even if one is just about the body and the other one is about creating a body in space, it's just so nice to come together, because it's been such a separate world of the nerdy people and, the movers that just like don't interface. But that's not true. It was such a positive experience to be part of the lab. I feel very supported by these two lovely women who run the Doc 11, Wiebke and Kingston. So yes, I want to mention that.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And that is something I've also been really curious about in terms of not just art, but I'm also really interested in social change, social impact in different ways, like things that we aren't necessarily investing in for different
Yeah.
reasons in our societies. And I've observed that the way to actually create change, the main way, whether we like it or not, is a merge of government, educational spaces, and corporate spaces. Like we can't keep them separate in their little isolated worlds. I love to hear that you're creating projects that inherently pull these spaces together. And then you're planting seeds with these experiences.
Yeah, I hope so. And, I still enjoy painting in oil. It's okay. Like, it all has its place. It's just maybe I'm a little too busy to make a lot of oil painting. Maybe I just create one once a year. So you have to kind of see where it goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, in terms, because I'm notorious for talking about multi-passionate topics.
Yeah. We
how
like
does
that.
your how does your intuition guide you between knowing how to shift between different directions?
Well, right now, I do a little I should say little. I do a first collaboration together with Jano, and he's a music producer in France. And he just sent me the song, and then he's like, well, let's just start with creating a reel together. I'm just carried by his beautiful voice. And then I'm just like, okay, so what comes? What movement comes? What environment comes? And he offers me a space, basically.
Mhm.
In 2022, I had Anne Germanique, and she's from France as well. And I've never actually met her. She just sent me this beautiful music. And I was in a residency, and I started to just listen to her music all the time, all the time. And then I had some ideas that were coming, um, and it was kind of it just kind of started this thing that people just come and send me things and say, oh, would you like to do something with that? They had a piano player from Mexico, Gabriel Barras, and he sent me something 2023 and said, actually he sent it to me much earlier, but only 2023. I was like, now here where I am with this water fountain, this music will fit piano, and the water fountain is exactly right. So sometimes it takes me some time when somebody sends me something, and sometimes it's also like I'm not so clearly into this type of music, then I find the right moment where it matches. So I can't really say I plan ahead. It's just suddenly I'm like, this is correct now, this is right, this person's music. Or Wolosi, they're from Poland, and they play all different string instruments. Uh, just amazing classical music, but also they made some special other sounds just by hitting the instruments. And I'm going to work with them on something. So there's just lots of different people doing different sounds. Or Jessie Grace, 2019, she came from England and was using her voice while we performed the piece called Queens. So, yes, so it's just always seems to be the sound comes to me,
Mm. Sound
or the
comes
people who
to
give me the sound.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Beautiful. Um, so I wanted to touch on embodiment and the body more. You mentioned earlier a little nugget that we didn't elaborate on, but around, illness being part of the instigator for your curiosity in studying the body. Can you talk more on like how do those things connect?
Okay, basically, I lost my hearing on my right side, and I also lost my balance. And it was kind of a near death experience. So I had left the body and came back with kind of a situation where it was communicated to me that I have to dance.
That was
So
clear instructions.
it was a very clear communication. I've got to use my body. I want to use my body, but it was like without balance, suddenly thinking, "Oh, I'm supposed to dance. How to do that?" So I regained my balance, and then that was the thing. That was the only thing that wanted me here, or I wanted it here. And so I I've I've been dancing since I'm 9 years old, but I didn't really think that I could ever have a career being a dancer. It never crossed my mind. So, anyway, it is my career somehow. I teach dance. And so, I don't know, maybe we can do a little embodiment. We could just
Yeah,
together and
beautiful.
take our hands to the outside of this frame that we've got here, and then just bring it, open the hands to the front. So mostly it's the inside of our hands. And then we bring it back over our heads, over our heads, and feel what's behind our heads. and then bring the hands again to the front and cover the heart with our hands.
Yay.
That's the energy we're dealing with. We're speaking with this energy through here to there, right? So yeah, everything is connected. All our motor skills have something to do with love.
Definitely. I'm very sensitive and have been practicing some of these different things with yoga and embodiment techniques and somatics. But just doing that with you, like I invite guests also to do something like that, rewind and try it.
Simple. Yeah.
Bringing presence, just simple presence and observation as you're doing something with your body. At least for me, that doing that with you just now, very calming. It shifted my energy. And, to me, that's what I define a miracle as.
Yeah.
Conscious shift. Yeah.
I also learned some traditional Indian dance, and it's all about the fingers dancing. So you have this articulation with the hands doing mudras, and that was to me very wonderful when that came into my life, because through the ballet or the dance, your hands are like this, they don't do too much, they like look pretty and go like this maybe, but with the Indian dance, everything has a meaning. And there is a book, it's called The Book About Love, written by an American author, something Krause was her name. And in the middle of the book is another book.
I love this book already.
Yes. And it talks about the language. The first language was the language with the hands, because the market was international always, so speaking different languages. So the Italians, and well, I should say at the time, the Romans in the harbor found their different ways how to talk with the hands and put more in or take something out. It was all through the hand movements. And then the Indian temple dance, it's all about devotion and how to think of God, how to embody something sacred through Shakti, through bringing the energy into the physical, taking it from the earth, taking it from the skies into the body. So our hands are little portals that can pull on this information and bring it into the physical, bring it into our bodies.
Yeah, they're both pulling and they emit so much energy. You can do all
pulling and giving, of course.
that. It is kind of, for many people, a little bit of a lost thing, just the connection to our hands in general. I love that invitation to learn more. It makes me want to do more with the, I've done some belly dancing. That's about it.
Yeah, well, that is all related, isn't it? It's also the gypsy dance, the flamenco. It's related, right?
Yeah, at least in my experimentation with dance, what I observed was certain dance was more appealing for what I needed. That these different formats, give you something different, right? Like belly dance for me was, there's a lot of thumping and rhythm. It was a very grounding thing that I needed at the time,
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's a fun invitation too, is if you're getting curious about movement. Like, what do you need?
With the hands, right?
Yeah, like what kind do you need is an interesting inquiry.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to share about multidimensional art expression with the audience?
I think everybody should just embrace what comes to mind, what comes to heart when they feel a pull either to say a poem or to write a poem. That is one expression, or to sing, to hear the voice vibrate differently. When we sing, it changes the tone. When we speak, it has one tonality, but when we sing, we change that vibration, right? I think it's just really wonderful if if you can lift yourself into these different vibrations, really.
Yeah, get curious, get playful.
Playful is the key. Remain playful and open like a child to investigate.
Well, thank you so much for this amazing journey today.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much, Ariel.